Hello, my name is Tyler Phillips. I'm in the AMS 430 class here at Western Kentucky University. I decided to talk about unions for my presentation for this class. Um, I'm fairly familiar with unions as I did kind of a little summer help project with one of these jobs before, and plus with this class here, I found it very interesting to talk about. I felt like I could find the good and the bad, the pros and cons of this, and um, talk about it because I know it is touchy to some people. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But I feel like there is a lot that could be learned here and a lot that people don't realize, a lot that is commonly misjudged and underestimated and stuff like that. All right. Now getting into it, what exactly is a union, you might ask? Well, according to the recent source I researched about, a union is workers joining together to pursue policies and goals beneficial to one and all. Kind of what that means is basically, the workplace is uniting together to create an equal and safe working environment for everyone. Basically, to make sure that everyone's happy and the productivity is high and things like that. Non-union jobs, the morale probably is not as high as it would be as a union job. Granted, there's always going to be a difference in either one of those, but my guess, according to the research I've done, is morale and productivity and overall earnings is a lot higher in a unionized job rather than a job that is not union. Um, Unions have typically been around since the creation of the country. Unions are not just in America, they are international as well. But as for America, they were usually, according to some sources, they were created about the time that the country was, established and things like that. But according to it being organized, was not really until 1866 when the National Labor Union was created. And what the big thing that this did here was it limited the federal workday to 8 hours. Um, basically for safety and things like that, to make sure that workers were doing a sustainable amount of work, but not overworking themselves to where they weren't being productive anymore, to where it might harm their safety and things like that. You can always tell about union jobs versus non-union jobs is non-union jobs can work well over 8 hours in a day. You can see, 10 to 12 hours. And unions sometimes do this, but most of the time they are federally, like usually 8-hour work days. The Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions was formed in 1881. And then 5 years later, the American Federation of Labor was founded, which is also known as AFL. Now, let's get into talk about why unions are good and why you should choose unions. Personally, I think that unions are a good thing. Some might argue that they hate them and they don't like them and things like that, but personally, I think that unions are pretty good. Unions give a worker a voice to be heard. Not to misconceive that with, getting your choice, but say if you have an issue or things like that, then you can, talk about it, and it's typically resolved pretty fast. Unions help the economy grow, and on average, union workers earn significantly more income than people who are working for non-union companies. Here's a stat for you. In 2004 to 2007, union workers earned on average 11.3% higher wages than those not working under a union. And also with the union, safety is one of their biggest concerns. Because, the safety. It boosts morale when there's a safe working environment. For example, an old job I used to work at was a non-unionized job. It was with it was in a warehouse working for a company. And for instance, there was a dock because we had to load up big semi trucks and things like that. There was a dock that I felt was not really safe, but it was at the very minimum of the OSHA guidelines. Well, I went to my boss, talked to him about it. He said basically either to get over it or there would be consequences for not doing my job and griping about it. Well, I felt unsafe, and I felt unsafe for the other workers as well. And just for example, here I have a good friend who does work for UPS, and that is a unionized job. And safety is big concern in unions. So he had a similar situation where he felt that a dock where they load the trucks up was not safe at all. So he contacted OSHA. It was within a week the problem was completely resolved. And it's like they say here, workers in unions have a voice, whereas workers in non-union jobs typically don't have as good of a voice, or their voices aren't heard, basically. And also, like, as our pros and things like that, there's always a bad side and cons about it. A lot of people don't like unions. They can either go on strike if they feel like they're not being treated fairly, things like that. For example, a couple of years ago at my old job, when there was a big strike out west at the ship docks and things like that, when they were on strike, it pushed back our deliveries and things like that. So our work was very affected by that. And I feel like in today's time too, you receive a lot of incorrect media coverage, which prohibits people from thinking clearly about unions and things like that. And the common misconception with unions is you have a voice, not always a choice. What I mean by that is basically you have a voice to. It's kind of like voting, basically. Unions are like democracies. You can vote, but you can't always get what you want. You can always go talk to your supervisor, your boss, and things like that, but you can't just pull strings as you want to. It's basically like you have most jobs have a lot of employees, and you can't typically do something just because one person doesn't like it or things like that. It has to be a majority rule, things like that. So it has to be you know affected by most of the company, not just one person. Well, I'm not sure what happened there. I think I lost some of my recording, but oh well. Anyways, back to the unions. Here are obviously some examples of union companies and non-union companies. Non-union companies are typically smaller private-owned companies, like for say a bowling alley, a skating rink, and things like that. And here are some of the main union companies that I know of. For example, the one I used to work for the summer internship was General Motors. And back to wherever union workers make a lot higher wages than non-unionized. That's pretty true, because for this warehouse job I had, I think I worked there for 2.5 years at $8 an hour. Didn't get any raises, no incentives, no appreciation, not like that, not anything like that. And then for the summer help thing, I worked at General Motors here in Bowling Green at the Corvette plant. Started out making part-time at $15 to $16 an hour. So that right there goes to show you that union companies do pay a lot more than non-union companies. And here are my works cited. Thank you guys.